today, next grow out of 2025, it's Taniguchi Golden Corn. I know for a fact this is one of the biggest collections of these in England, maybe in Europe, who knows. I'm obsessed, I have been from day one. There's loads of content on the channel if you want to dig deep into golden corn, but I'm going to go through it all again today. In this particular batch this year, I've got the original Ginrins, which have been a little bit more scarce, and I've got a load of the more new style, that next generation of the non-Ginrins, the ones with the kind of Key Matsuba style, Key Asagi style, you name it. What we're also going to do in today's video, as well as diving into the technicalities of what I'm looking for and what we're going to grow on, you're going to get to see firsthand a selection of these that's coming up for an absolutely unbelievable price as well. And then on top of that, there's going to be some examples that I've still got here on the farm to show you from what they were as Tosai last year to where they're at now, Nisai this year, before they grow on again. Absolutely loads to cover, but for now I need to get stuck in. I've got a lot of these to get through. I'm going to get the selection done, then we're going to come back to it after that. Fucking,
this is all that's going to happen now.
Oh, you got that net you were using?
Yeah.
That would be grand. Oh, right, now we're going to do this differently because I'm fucking losing will to live already. Right, that has been a fucking nightmare. Change of plan because these are mental. Doing the selection slightly differently. We're going to be socked into a bowl with some anaesthetic to get it done, because all the jumping around, landing on the floor, all the rest of it, they're going to be as stressed as I am. Slight change of plan. Restart, let's start again. See, the problem with this right now, this is a big selection. There's about 600 fish in this pond altogether, so I also need speed. They're not an easy variety to assess because the change in them, I'm looking at scale line patterns, which takes a lot of time and attention to detail. Understanding has the fish, because the red Kanoko is a very big part of golden corn, so I need to understand if it's actually present in the fish or not. I wouldn't want to be raising one that won't have that characteristic, because it's just never going to look like a golden corn in the end. A lot of them do have it, that's what makes it tricky. We've got the yellow type, the Key Matsuba, the more modern one, with absolutely no Matsuba one showing in the back at the minute. So in essence, it's like a very pale Asagi that's not got the amime net pattern showing yet. Yeah, so I need to reduce all stress from this selection, otherwise I might be walking out midway. Right, now we're into it. Obviously there's a lot of different styles I'm working with here. As we go along, I'll pull a few bits out. But first of all, I want to point you out this example here. This is technically Asagi. Obviously they come from golden corn, so everything in here, regardless of what it is, originates from the golden corn line, parent mix. They've all got those unique attributes, which we will talk more about. In this instance, this is what many people consider a snow Asagi or the Yuki Asagi style. The reason I'm picking this right now is because I like the Beni pattern formation of it. It's quite unique. This will just eventually form a normal Asagi kind of a mime net pattern in the back. Just right now it's very stripped down. Eventually it'll progress more onto this kind of style. The fish next to it's just taking a bit longer. I had an example here this year that grew through to a big Nisai, and it kept white all the way through till about March, and then at that point it's actually started breaking in the back. So I never anticipate them to stay like that. Yuki Asagi are a bit of the mythical creature in all honesty, and you're never going to keep one pure for very long. So selection wise, what I'm going to do, because the kind of Key Matsuba type are the dominant force, when I've got a bowl full, I'm going to work through everything else first of all, and then after that focus on them. Just a nice way to sort of narrow down the selection and stay focused. Right, this one here is quite interesting. So this is a white base golden corn with yellow Kanoko, but how it's actually formed at the minute looks like a solid block. What I'm actually seeing when I'm looking up close is I can see, if we catch the light properly, you can actually see the pattern form down the side of the fish where you've got the white skin. And what you also see down there is this is all Kanoko. Even when I look at the head, there's head pattern here and here as well. So what this will tend to do from my past experience with these is as this fish grows out, it's likely that the Kanoko will stretch out. Not guaranteed, but likely. And what you'll actually have then is this Kanoko pattern form as the fish becomes bigger. If we get it on its side, look, you can actually see Kanoko separation. So interestingly, people might completely overlook that, but experience tells me otherwise, in that what all that needs to do now is grow, and then we'll actually start to see what the real fish is sat underneath it. Right, so golden corn, what do you need to know about them? So it all started, it has originated and only started at Taniguchi Koi Farm. It was this guy's absolute creation, believe it or not. After, I think it was 11 or 12 years of actually stabilising it, he had to build this whole thing from the ground up because the parent fish weren't out there to go and create the vision that he had in his head. The first version of them were the Ginrin ones, and they come in two types. You've got the what I call the yellow type that develops a red Kanoko in the middle of the scale. Kanoko is basically like these dots, if you're not aware what it is. Looks absolutely amazing. And then there's also a white variation of that as well that develops yellow Kanoko. Now, one thing I love about it first and foremost, and it's the bit you can't miss, is that the guy himself went and made something that was, Kanoko's been one of the most random characteristics in koi for as long as I can remember. He went and stabilised it and made it something he can produce on an annual basis. Now, whether you like them or not, I think that's worth bearing in mind. What he also then did, and this is really important, is went and made something new that had serious growth genetics, and they really have got jumbo growth genetics, and got the body with it. In Japan, you're going to struggle to create something new and it not be able to grow and it not be able to develop the body. The foundation of it all was basically Asagi. It's how when I got the first batch, or the first person to bring them into the country, my whole selection criteria had to be started from the ground up, but knowing that Asagi was the base, it's what I used to get an understanding of how they might actually develop. And when we see some of the types in closer details, I'll speak about that more. But the actual very first fish he used to create all this was a massive, and I mean massive, over 1 meter Chagoi, believe it or not. One of the other things he did to stabilise this Kanoko, and another element of the blood, is Karashigoi. So we would say big Chagoi, Karashigoi. Asagi themselves have the ability to grow massive. The Karashigoi that he used was actually an example. We take the yellow fish that developed red sort of shimmies, which are actually a defect in Karashigoi. We would reject them for that. He actually took an example like that had the red shimmies and used it as a part of his breeding to create that characteristic to make the Kanoko. Absolutely fascinating. Like I say, in and amongst all that, what he managed to do was stabilise something completely random, give these fish huge growth potential and fantastic bodies. Hats off. Then we've got the real random side to them in the way that the Kanoko develops, certainly in the white ones that develop the yellow Kanoko. So random in what it can do. And there's a real opportunity for you to get something that hasn't cost a lot of money and produce something from nothing that can become an absolute showstopper, because it's easy for myself and the likes of the breeder to miss something, because how do you know when it's an all white fish? Say I got some of my selection hacks from the fact I knew in essence what I'm dealing with was an Asagi with different coloration. So yeah, all started there with the Ginrin. and then we moved on. I think it was a year or two after that. He is still producing the Ginrin ones, albeit the numbers, like I said before, are a little bit less now. But what he did is then move to the next generation to broaden out what it could do. So what he has done in all this is actually produced a very stable yellow colour, which is not easy to do. A lot of yellow colours can turn orange, and that's what I mean by stable. From that now, the new next generation is producing these what look like Koi Matsuba, but they're not. But you've got that coloration, but they get this red glow and kind of red Kanoko effect through them. He's now got Koi Asagi as well, which is just amazing to see. You're getting Aka Matsuba from it and normal Asagi, but the thing is they're all rooted back in them same genetics. What he's done now is producing more of all this other stuff en masse. But the non-Ginrin types are really unhinged when it comes to growing, because you've not got that extra variation in the Ginrin. The Ginrins grow incredibly well, but trust me, these non-Ginrin variations are nuts, as you will see in some of the Nisai I'm going to show you a little bit later on. So yeah, we'll go into, again, more detail on all the specifics of them. I'm going to get this selection done now. I just thought you'd like to know that bit of information first off. So finally, on the last bowl, this was the original escapees that we've rounded up. So from here now, we've still got a bit. What I wanted to do was just separate what I potentially wanted to grow on and what was getting released at this time. Like I say, with so many fish, got to get them numbers down. So the plan from here is we've got to sort the different types for sale. So what goes up on the website, you'll be able to actually get access to the pieces that you are wanting more specifically. There'll be some fish we'll separate out for some auctions as well. And then for mine that are going back, I've got to do a bit of a size grade and check at the same time. And there'll be some we also select that will get wholesaled as well. So lots more still to do, but I'll get all that done anyway. Then like magic, we shall come back and look in closer detail at these different types and what's coming up for sale as well. What I will also be sure to do is give you advice on generally what I'm looking for a little bit more as well when we've got the different types in front of me, to help your eyes with selection and understanding, just in case you choose to buy these as a little batch to grow on in a grow on tank or something. I do think they're absolutely brilliant for that. Like I say, just given what can come from them, how quick they grow. I mean, I think they can be compared only to the likes of Chagoi and stuff like that. It really is just monster genetics. You think when there's so much Asagi blood, Asagi generally, when they are not massively kind of inbred, and there's not many lines that are of Asagi, these are very pure in that respect. So what it does is give them a certain body type, certainly non-Ginrin variations, and it's understanding what that body does, but it is that body type that's very closely related to Magoi, the original Magoi, that is what gives them this huge growth potential. And bearing in mind, of the new type especially, he has an example there. It's the first time I latched onto these as well. I saw this fish and I thought, as you do at Taniguchi, what's he up to here now? And yeah, I mean, it was 4 years old, I think about 80 centimeters. It was winning awards at the All Japan. And then all of a sudden, boom, you seem to get that, the generation actually become available en masse. So I managed to get my hands on quite a few last year. So I've already got that year's experience under my belt in raising them. And I've been super impressed. And one of the fish I am going to show you right at the end of the video is I think we've got around 65 centimeter Nisai. I mean, Ginrin type as well. Absolutely nuts. Asagi around the same kind of size level. They are mental. And don't forget, when I'm saying all this, the Ginrin do also pack a punch as well. Right, so what I've got here, first of all, are what I call the new type golden corn. Taniguchi himself still actually just refers to these as golden corn. People have called these Koi Matsuba. I can absolutely see where you're heading with that thought process. However, there is a difference knowing the bloodline, what's behind them, but particularly still this red Kanoko characteristic that they still have that just materializes in a slightly different way. So what I'm going to do first of all, before we dive into these, is share with you an example here that I grew on last year, just for you to get an idea of where these are going to head and what they're going to become. So as you can see, this grew absolutely enormous. This was about a 56, 57 cm Nisai. And what you can see there is the typical golden corn body, that elongate form, but with lots of power. And not only that, as you look into it, yes, you've got those kind of Koi Matsuba looking aspects, but what you can start to see is this red glow that they get. And the big example that I saw in Japan was just phenomenal, absolutely breathtaking, and what really makes them unique. And as they hit that kind of 3-4 year old mark, the body volume really starts to stack on them. So this is what I'm envisioning for exactly the direction these are heading. Now let's get into the detail of these Tosai. So what I've got here are, this is actually the batch of these I've got to release. It's a whole batch. You'll see there's some variation in them. We've got 50 pieces in total, and these are going to be made available for sale on the Koi online website this Sunday at 10 AM. Full details are in the description and links for that as well. But for now, I'm going to talk you through the fish in the bowl. These are currently sized at 17 to 20 centimeters. Now, first of all, what you do see is that body form. Elongate, powerful in the heads, but very, very well set. Like I say, these have got jumbo potential. It's there, it's in the characteristics. All that parent fish is just jumbo, jumbo, jumbo all the way. Taniguchi doesn't mess around with stuff like this because he knows how important it is. Right, so what we've got here on the whole kind of spectrum, you can see there's differences in the kind of Matsubamon. I'm going to go with that. You could say the Amime, the net pattern, either or, but we've got the different coloration heading from light up to, yellow through to a bit more orangey. And then you can see we've got lighter through to darker in the back as well. Now, I've gone through all these. These are all at what I believe a level good enough to continue really pushing on and investing a bit of time into. So what we've got here is, when you see these darker ones, from my experience, and this has happened with these already, what will tend to happen is with these, if you get them growing at a good rate now, they will actually start to lighten, and the pattern detail in the back will start to form more and become clearer. And what you can start to see in most of them, it might be hard to pick up on camera, you can see below the lateral the red pigment sat in the scales, and that's the colour that eventually kind of works its way through. At the other end of that scale, and I don't mind these ones either, is these ones. Now this is just like, if you imagine picking an Asagi, I always say the lighter the better. Not quite the case with these, because it's like when you pick Matsuba, they're not necessarily always the ones with the Matsuba pattern sat down. But in this instance, with a fish like this, I wouldn't be scared of it. You really can see the Kanoko, red Kanoko sat in that more clearly. But what will happen with this eventually, this in the back will just start to form exactly the same as these ones. It's just going to take a little bit more time. You've got these ones, for example, that are a little bit in between, but you can see there's still quite a lot of red pigment here, and then in this area just starting to darken, and that will come through more and more. But in the case of these ones, I've seen it many a times, providing they start growing at a good rate this season, we'll get more separation in that back, more development, and all will become clearer. But just check out the body form so consistently on all of them. It's exactly what you want to see in fish that can grow. The size at 17 to 20 now, honestly, if you get these in the right conditions, they'll just absolutely rock it. in regards to the red colours, you can see that one looks a little bit darker in its red colour at the moment compared with something like that one. A bit more yellow, but again you can just see the subtlety of the reds Kanoko starting to come through. Again, from what I saw last year, I'm not too concerned about either or colour, because if you get them growing this season at a good pace again, what you're going to tend to find is the colour will drop back a bit before the true kind of Kanoko and the rest of the pattern starts to come through. So this is the variety. What I see in these, yes, it's the growth genetics that I love. It's how they develop. When they're bigger, as you've seen in that Nisai example, and even beyond that, they're an unbelievable presence and have a huge impact in a pond. The best bit about it all, with the whole golden corn thing, having the Tosai that I've got here, this is why I took such a big risk on getting the numbers this year, was because it allows us to get the price with them as well. So this particular batch of these, it's just this type. There's 50 of them available on the website this Sunday. Like I say, links in the description. These are going to be priced at £60 each, or 2 for 100. Absolutely brilliant. You can get them in a growing tank this year or something, have a load of fun with them. I really do believe, as with Asagi, all the other golden corn as well, it's a variety where you can truly beat the dealer. And like I say, I've already selected these out from the whole batch as having some potential that I think are going to have good potential moving forwards. So you've got a great opportunity to take them from here and see what you can do. We can have a little informal growing contest between us as well. That'll be epic. Another variation. This one sits in the realms of, again, these are golden corn. They come from exactly the same parents, just some of the variations it spits out. And I have, at the end of the video, there's going to be some bigger examples, Nisai examples of these for you to see. Now, the golden corn element of this, where it comes from, they're not as structured as Asagi. So some of these will keep the traditional coloration of Asagi down the belly line, up the cheeks, etc. But that Kanoko element is still within this. So sometimes it can go off script, start appearing, and they can even form an informal pattern on the body as well. These are going to be released for sale on the website along with the others. They'll be included in the 2 for 100 deal as well, and at £60 each. What we've got in here is the normal Asagi coloration and some of the Key Asagi as well. So we will separate them out so you can order specifically which one you want, but all we have available is what's in this bowl today. So let's take a closer look into just what I'm seeing in those fish now, where I expect them to go, so you can understand it. And then, like I say, hang on to the end to get to see these bigger examples. Kind of Key Asagi wise, let's have a look. So I want to point out this sort of coloration, because just as with the other fish previously, all this is right now, this blueback, the amime is not as well formed as these fish, but it will be in the end. But as you can see, there's an amazing yellow colour developing already. And this is such a stable yellow colour. Not going orange, they're either yellow or they're the red of the Asagi. It's what he's done absolutely terrifically well with these. So as it stands, you can see that has got a nice even colour line, but there is the odd bit of Kanoko that might form. It's a bit of a gamble, but either way they tend to look fantastic. And then we see on the other one the potential level of the Beni look as it starts coming up. No coloration on the belly at the moment. That doesn't bother me. I'm just looking for colour somewhere, and there's a very, very likely possibility that that will come. Very rarely does it stay down with these, from what I've got to know of them in the years that I've been growing them now. Ones like this is very, very stripped back as it stands, very light. There's a tiny, tiny faint bit of colour in the fin. Again, all I'm looking for, but I would suspect that within around 6 to 12 months, the coloration will be similar to the level that some of these are at as well. So there's just a lot of preference going on. You see ones like this are going a bit more corn-like. Actually, Kanoko there already, look, but just look at the colour quality. He really has. When Taniguchi creates something, he puts so much into the bloodline, so there's a real depth of quality to him. Growth-wise, I expect exactly what we've seen with the previous ones before. They're quite unhinged, and as you'll see at the end, I've got a Key Asagi that was a 65cm Nisai that I grew on from this kind of size. It hit that over a 12-month period. Absolutely remarkable. So stay tuned for these coming this weekend as well. Right guys, now the main kind of feature of the video is the grow on. So obviously what we're going to be following along now through to the very end. Like I say, I've got the vision locked in my head. By about February, March next year, I want 20, 60 to 65 centimetre Nisai swimming around in here. Absolutely 100% certain we'll do it. I just can't wait. But for now, take a look. There's a very mixed bag in here. So what I also have got is some of the Ginrin variations as well. You're going to see a few more of these in another batch of bigger ones I've had to separate in a moment. The Ginrin been a lot harder to get hold of. It was very limited this year, so it was nice to get a few, but it's been a mixed bag quality wise, kind of pretty much 50%, really not that happy with, but then there's some really strong pieces amongst here as well. So while we're pondside, I'm going to take a closer look at some examples in the bowl shortly, but I'm just going to get a size range so that we've got that logged for what we're doing. I'm going to go what I think is absolute smallest right now to absolute biggest. So there are some fish in here that are way below the average that I've put back because they're quality pieces. I'm just going to give them a chance to do a bit in here, and that's at this range, kind of 15 centimeters. I think biggest end on here we are probably looking around the 20 mark right now, and what I'm just going to do is get what I consider an average, which is probably going to be around the 17, 18 mark, I should imagine. Yeah, 18. So that's where we're at. I'd say 17 to 20 on average, but there's those few just sitting below that. I'm just going to see how they do. So there's 260 pieces gone back in here. That's really carved the stocking level down now, which is going to be amazing. These will shoot, and I've managed to condense the pack because, as you'll see, as well as the few smaller ones in here that are below the average, in the pond next to me is where I put some that were mainly Ginrin ones, to be fair, that did come in a bit bigger and have raced on since, so it was important that they're removed as well. But yeah, you see just huge variation now of what golden corn is doing. Absolutely love it. So I'm going to select a few standout pieces now. We'll have a look at them in the bowl. Then I'm going to show you the bigger stuff before we finish. We're looking at those mega Nisai examples. Right, so what I've got in this bowl is a selection from the net you've just seen. Some key highlights from the ones I'm going to be growing on further. Now, I just want to take this moment just to really reinforce what it is I love about these, because golden corn, when they came to market, have been quite decisive in a lot of ways. Some people just don't get it, and that's fair enough. I've had that problem with Tamasaba as well. However, with these, first and foremost, it's knowing what's gone into them for me. Like I say, that bloodline is created in the Kanoko, making something that was so random, a consistent trait that develops in them. The big fish genetics, the growth capability. It is fun just being able to grow something huge, but then actually having some qualities as well. Then you've got the fact of the random nature of them and the skill of trying to pick something that can really progress and become something special from seemingly nothing. Few varieties give that. Asagi's always been one because they can change a lot, but we're talking like Komonryu, Matsukawabaki, Shirotsuri, a bit more structured, but they can be the same, and there's a genuine opportunity there to get something that doesn't cost the earth and become a real piece in your collection in later years. Don't get me wrong, very few make it to those top special fish, but that can be said of koi in general. And the ones that are special later in life do command a value. Just because they're golden corn, people make that mistake with other non-Gosanki varieties, just because it's a this or a that. Those getting top examples of the weird and wonderful is very hard, and they do command prices when that happens. There's such a diverse mix now coming from them as well. So much, if you're a fan, so much there to keep you entertained. So let's have a closer look at what I've got in here before we move to seeing those banging Nisai that I've got. So first I'm going to go back to the originals, the Ginrin examples, and two types we see in here. These are very hard to come by these days, but the yellow type that develops the red Kanoko within all the scales. Now bear that in mind, as well as this, the white type that develops yellow Kanoko. I'm going to show you my two Nisai of those in a minute for you to get a better idea. The skill with them, however, it's quite tough. With the yellow ones, I just tend to look for a little bit of red pigment in the scale, some early signs of the Kanoko actually showing. And then with the white type, when I first had these, my whole basis for selection was the fact that they are an Asagi at heart. So what I'm looking for generally is some yellow in the fin, which it actually has it in the base of all the fins on that one, and maybe a bit on the gill or a tiny bit on the body. Doesn't matter, it's showing there. That is enough for me to know that's got the potential. And the Nisai I'm going to show you shortly looked pretty much like this just 12 months ago. It's been a remarkable transformation with that one. Then you've got other types of the Ginrin variants. This one that tends to sit a bit more orangey, that can develop a Kanoko as well. Looks quite cool. I've seen a few of them over time. Ones here, look, yes, you'd say Ginrin Asagi, but you've got that Kanoko. Don't forget, that's the characteristic that sets them apart. Again, then in the yellow type, you can see with this one, look, absolutely floods of Kanoko starting to come up. Really amazing to see, exciting potential in that one. And then this more deep red type as well. Amazing Ginrin on it, which is something else he absolutely nailed, that Ginrin quality. See a white variation, again Kanoko starting to form, and they really can look messy as Tosai and very uninspiring, but you've got to keep the picture in mind of these later examples and give them the time. Then in amongst here, just flying through them, look, like the key Asagi type. I mean, look at the quality of that coloration already in that one. Really, really exciting prospects, and I just love the body lines as I keep looking. These ones, this is basically a non-Ginrin type. It's a white base with the yellow Kanoko. Looks absolutely smothered at the moment, but when you really see, you can see the scale separation is actually there. What I tend to find with those ones as they grow, that all tends to stretch out more and more. Ginrin here, look, this is actually a white base one with the yellow patterning. There's a very high chance as well we'll get more separation in this colour, seeing it happen time and time again. Very exciting prospect again. And then we get to the new type that I featured, and you see, you know, that is basically the same fish right there, just at two very different stages of development. Will that one darken up to that level? It might take it quite a while, or will it stay down? But what I can see is scatterings of red Kanoko all over that fish, which is exactly what we want. The Asagi type one, there's just so much going on and so much variation now. This one again, yellow type, non-Ginrin version. These can tend to look really messy until they get a lot bigger. And I've found personally that these are the least popular of the lot. But when they get the size, oh my God, do they look impressive. I've actually got a couple myself in Japan that I think over the next 2 years are going to be absolute worldies. You see it a bit more with that one because it's lighter in the back at the moment, look, but I will expect this to form that Asagi kind of Amime pattern in it. But I mean, look at the coloration again, super stable yellow colour. So just take a moment to appreciate those ones. Then I'm going to show you the bigger size stuff so we can monitor their progress. There's a lot of Ginrin in that, but they've really shot on. They're going to be grown in a separate pond to these before seeing those Nisai examples. Right, so here we've got some of those bigger ones. These are sitting at 22 to 25 cm, so you can see quite a jump over already, but looking exciting. Being that bit bigger, you start to see more development. This yellow example, really I'm starting to see, I don't know if it'll come in the camera, but the red Kanoko that is actually sat amongst that, which is great to see. Always a fan like these examples. Look, nothing right now, but there is traces of yellow in the fin. As with this one, this looks an absolute mess at the minute. There's no getting away from that. But what's happening is the Amime net pattern of the Asagi is just starting to break through in areas. We can see, look, we've got coloration all over with that. This is an example like those I mentioned before. So it's a white type with yellow Kanoko. And I do believe with that one, we'll be seeing this for a long time to come through this grow out video. There'll be a lot of separation in that as it starts to grow out. Quirky pattern in this one. Will that stay? I don't know. One thing I absolutely guarantee you with that, the colour level by Nisai will be absolutely bonkers. And then a couple that I'm very excited by, these two. I mean, the body on there is just an absolute unit. But this one, more than anything, I do believe this could potentially be the absolute pick of the bunch. Certainly from the Ginrin examples anyway. Will it stay as a Yuki Asagi? I doubt it. It might do Nisai through to Sanzai. I think it'll get it in the end. But just looking at the body structure, the coloration level, we've got Kanoko coming up and forming already. We've got colour down the belly line. So much to happen with that one. Super exciting prospect. So that's where they're at, and size wise where they're at today. Now it's time to go and have a look at those prime Nisai that I've got. Right, so what I've got in this one, these are actually examples that were raised through to Nisai, concrete pond raised at Taniguchi. Just going to put a few of them in now to look at, bearing in mind they are absolutely mental. This one's so cool. It's actually got, it's a reverse type Asagi pattern in the back. As you can see, look, what's known as Gyakume normally. You've got that, it's got this really weird kind of shine, metallic-y kind of vibe to it as well. And then look at that Beni. But like I explained can happen, we've got the normal kind of Asagi coloration, and then there's the odd bits of Kanoko coming there, look, along the belly. So not quite sure exactly what's going to happen with that piece, but absolutely stunning. And size wise, that's at around 52 cm now, so cracking size Nisai on that one. And look at the body again, real power sat here, great head shape. It's going to make for an impressive Sansai, that is. Right, so two examples here, actually very similar, just at different stages of development. And this is where I think they can start to throw people a little bit, because yes, there's an element of looking messy, but you've got to kind of see through it. Size wise, kind of 46 there, around 45 there. So basically we've got this Kanoko pattern that's formed in both fish. This one's less visible because the background colour's darken more than that one. Now I suspect over time that will also darken as well. What's going to happen this next year is we're going to really work on that colour, so this Beni is going to really change in intensity and start to absolutely pop, which will make a difference. Then with the additional growth and everything starting to stretch out a bit, I would like to think they'll actually start to look a little bit more structured in its pattern. I do think there'll be more Kanoko filling to come on that, but still, as we grow it and things stretch out, I think it's going to look really, really impressive. I'm quite excited by that one, but I'm just picturing it with that Beni, absolutely luminous. This one's got a bit of Kadogin in there as well, which is nice, but I mean, look at that colour quality already. And there is Kanoko all over the place in there. So I think they're two exciting prospects. And that, as you've seen it, the more Asagi type ones I've shown you can potentially go that direction. Right, so here we've got two of the sort of Kiyosagi yellow types. Really starting to look impressive then. I think these are both female fish. 47, should imagine that's in, yeah, about 50 on that one. But again, nice here. This one's already developed a bit of a head pattern, which is really nice. What's going to come on the body right now, I'm not 100% sure, but we can see, look, there's pigment all down the belly. Really nice coloration in the fins as well. So there's plenty happening. And then this one again, it started to develop some head pattern, but you can see, look at the quality of that yellow coloration, and all down that belly line there as well. Let's see if I can get a look at that. Beautiful. So again, lots happening, but just looking at the body, especially the body of this one, look, that's going to be an absolute unit by the end of the year. The biggest thing in it, you've just got to try and see that there's something happening and go with it. Give them some time and see what happens, which is exactly what I'm doing here. If these examples don't sell you, I don't know what will. 3 pieces I've raised here from sizes similar to what you've seen today. Actually, they were a bit less when they started, up to the Nisai that I'm going to show you right in front of me, raised here in these 3,500 gallon ponds. Starting with my absolute favourite piece, because the white style with the yellow Kanoko has been one of my favourites all along. So if you remember back earlier in the video, I showed you a plain white Ginrin with a bit of colour in the fin. That's exactly what this fish looked like 12 months ago. Pretty much touching 60 centimetres. Check out the the power in the body, look. It's wild. The power, you can just see, look, the size of that backbone. I mean, I have got quite feminine hands, but compared to my thumb there, absolutely massive. And all this yellow Kanoko just started coming little by little in the fins. Now what I'm going to expect moving forwards again is the growth, which will keep the Kanoko refined and looking really as it is. But the colour of it, look, so unique. That is, I'm just mesmerised by that, I really am. And in this one you've got the Ginrin in amongst it all, which just adds a completely different dimension to it. What a piece. So again, this might end up being one of the biggest Sansai I've ever raised. This is the original yellow type with the red Kanoko. 2 years old, raised from them same sizes. Yeah, I mean, looking at where that's got to be hitting around 65. Just look at the body line. If you ever wanted to see a fish that will grow unhinged, it's that. But look at all this red Kanoko. And it's still just developing. It's really starting to progress now and mature. Over the next year, trust me, that is just going to really start to pop. And she is going to look insane. 65 now, I think we'll be talking somewhere in the realms of 75 centimetres by the autumn. If she stays any longer, we could be looking at an 80 centimetre Sansai with that one. Absolutely wild. And now, just to show you it wasn't a fluke, this is Asagi for sure. I do believe it will stay that way. Again, raised from the same size, same batch. Another 65 centimetre. Just look how clean she is. Absolutely remarkable. That same bonkers body line, not even really getting the volume yet. And then look at the quality of that yellow colour again. And it's only just starting to hit its stride as well. This next year, that's just going to get better, stronger, and another fish I think we're heading towards 75, maybe even bigger Sansai. It's got a lovely bit of gin in there as well, just adding another dimension to it. If they've not inspired you, it's clear that golden corn won't be for you. There we go. That's a comprehensive guide to this year's golden corn grow out here on site. There's going to be plenty more videos to come as you follow the progress. And don't forget, you can get your hands on those epic Tosai this weekend, Sunday, 10 AM on the Koi Online website. I am so excited for this year's growing season. It's the most comprehensive batch I've ever had. The picture, the dream is a pond of 20 Nisai like those last ones you've just seen. It's going to be doable, it's going to happen, it's going to be epic. Thanks for watching.